If you come back over here, excuse me, last portion, my value of multiplication is 50 because we have given two numbers and it is multiplied the value. So this is another way of calling a method which you create, your own method. Right? So this is another way of calling the method. So now multiply return is over. So this is over. The next we are moving on to the topic called file management. So how do I manage an external file? How do I read from the file? For this, first I have to create a, before that, if you have any questions on this, you can let me know. So I am now moving on to the new script. I create a new script now. Now this script, I'll put it as a file management. Right? So in this now, we are going to create how to manage external files. This is what we are going to see. Can we apply loops and conditions inside a recording? During recording, it is not possible for you to do it. It is always advisable to do it after the recording. So you need to, all the possible events you record, or sometimes what happens, you need to first finish off one flow of the recording, apply the statements, then start the next event by clicking on this particular screen. Insert recording into active functional text script. Using this, you do it. Then only it will be proper. Otherwise, it will not be proper. You cannot do it at the first time recording. You cannot do all the conditional statements as well. Sometimes it's very difficult because the screen will be very small. Right? So, next. So, file statement. First, I need to have a file. I'll create a file now. So, let me create it under C drive itself so that it is easy for me to access the file. So, I have it. I create it over here. New text file, my first file dot, so automatically txt is taken care of. Inside this file, let me have some commands, so some lines. So learning RFT through online. Today is the last class. Just I am having two lines. These two lines I like to read from inside the RFT script. Assume that this is your data file. The data file can be a comma separated value. The data file can be a set of values which is tab separated. Right? You can, or each file can have one column value. It need not all values can be in one file. It can be in any nature. My first file is the name of the file. I like to first open this file, read from this file. This is my agenda. I save this. Please note, I have put it onto the C drive. Now, when I like to do it, there are three things important. One is, I need to ensure file class is used in Java in this code. Right? So, file class is available under java.io. So, I need to add now, so import this class inside the script. So, if I don't do it, what will happen? So, if I don't do it, I will get an error. I will show first with java.io importing it. If I don't do it, what will happen? I will remove it and then show it as well. So now I need to ensure import java.io.star. So I need to use this. This line is very, very important for any Java component to be used. Now we are into as of now, we were using rational test, functional test, which has a script, that is why it is supported a JavaScript. Now we are using a java.io. So java.io holding all the fine, input output, that means external manipulations. Right? So I am coming back to the java.io, import this. Then the next important thing is I need to instantiate appropriate class and method for file management. So this is how the activity starts. So these are all some of the things that you need to be very careful and you have to be aware of. So first is, let me now go ahead with, first I have to find this data stream object is what the data of the file is coming from file using data stream input stream. The data input stream is a method available under file java.io. This one gets the data from the file. So I need to first assign this value. So I need to say data input stream. So data input stream is an object. So DIS. Initially I make it as null. That means no value is being given to this. Then I want to know I want to read line by line. So I want to capture the line, put it into a variable, and that variable is my line or my red line. Right? And this is a string. So I need to declare this object as a string. And this object also I now initialize with the null value. Right? Then I might be interested in incrementing, knowing how many lines I have read. That we'll see it later. For time being, let us have these two basic things incorporated. The problem with the users will be how to remember data input stream. This you have to remember. There is no other way. Practice will make you to remember frequently. Otherwise, as I usually do, you need to refresh yourself and then come back to the class. There is no other way. Right? Because otherwise you make a lot of mistakes. Don't tax your memory by remembering everything at all the time. Now I did this. Now the most important part is, when we are doing certain important activity like a file management, etc., the exceptions needs to be properly handled. If you don't manage the exception, you will get an error message. Right? So let me do it with exception and let me do it without exception. So now try is the exception handler. Right? So always, try, if you see this end closure, you can see now finally to complete the try statement. The finally has to be part of the exception handler. So otherwise, you will have a problem. So if I remove this try also, I'll show you how the error is done. Next is, I need to open the file. I declare as a file F. I need to manage the file now. So that means my first file, I like to open it inside this F object. F is the instantiator. I'm creating a new instantiation. Using the file class, file is the class name. Using the file class, I'm creating a F object. And that F object is also a file class. So what is the file that you want to access? So I want to access now C colon, right, double slash to ensure that it is not considered as a literal, my first file dot txt. Make sure the file that you created is in the same name, right? My first file dot txt. So my first file dot txt, I have created now the file. So now this file is a class of java.io. If I don't have a java.io, this file class will get an error message. It is a part of java.io file. You can see now, when I just mouse over here, you can see a java.io file. So that is the class I am using now. So next, so I open the file now. The next important part is, I need that file input string. I need that input string to be covered using a file input string. Again, as I tell you, you can use control space. I am creating a new instantiation. I am making a stream of this file using file input string. Right? What is that? F is my candidate. Now I make it as a file input string. Next, I need to buffer this string. So buffered input string. So you can always ask, is it mandatory that you to use it? It is not mandatory. I will leave it to you to try with and without this, so that your learning will be much clear. So buffer input string, I use file FIS. So using FIS, I created a buffer string as well. As I said, it is not required to have all the file input string is required, but you may not need a buffer input string. But you can do this, so I am putting that also into this. Now we created file. We have mapped that file inside the file input string, and from file input string, I made it as a buffer input string to make sure that the flow is there. Next, I need to read the data. I need to make the data. That means data input stream is this equals new. I create the data stream now. Data input stream to this class. Data input stream can be done based on either this or FIS or directly from file. I think you cannot do it directly from file. You can do it from BAS as well as file input stream. So now we made the three important candidates. This is for opening a file and making the file available inside this. So this is the object finally we are going to use. This is where the actual data are. And this is where I can go line by line inside the data. Additional line is only buffer input string. I am allowing you to verify why we need this. Right? Now, once I finish this, the next job is I want this to be read going through the loop. Now, how many lines in this disk? It is not possible for you to know. So this dot if I put, you don't have any method available to read the number of lines you have. If I just put a dot, this dot, you can see now I don't have any method which gives me line count. If I have a line count, I can use always for loop. So there is no line count then. Then what I need to do? So if I'm reaching the end of the line, right, I need to stop my line management. So I say here while, that is why I'm using while. While I use, so I want to read the line. So my read line, I'm reading the line equals this dot read line. So make sure read line is a method. So small, always start with a small letter. Line is a capital letter. Read line. I want to do this until it is not null. Until it is not null, I like to read the line. Right? So until is not null, I like to read the line. So my read line, this is one statement actually. My read line, this is one statement. Until this is not null, right? I like to continue to be in the loop. Until that is become, I want to continue to be in the loop. So I need to make sure I open the braces and close the braces. So you can either use the open braces like this or like that. Next is what I need to say, log info. I am putting the line, right? My read line. My read line is a string, so I don't have to worry about. So I'm putting my read line inside the, so my loop is, I will be inside the loop until I finish off reading the line. Right? Now I have made it as this. Next is I need to catch. In case if file doesn't exist, I will get an exception. If file physically not exist, I will get an exception. And that exception I want to pass it. And that file contains wrong information which is not readable. Then the disk will give a error. So the disk will return an error and that I want to catch it as an exception. So without exception handling, I cannot manage this. This is called catching the exception. So I say catch, small letter, right? Catch always with what is that exception you want to catch? IO exception. IO exception is again a Java guide. So I instantiate that to a E. E is for exception. Then I open the braces, close the braces. So if you are getting the exception, what you want to do? I want to put it into log info, right? E dot get message. So whatever the message system generates, I like to pass that into the exception. Only when there is a problem. If there is no problem, catch will not get executed. So finally, what you want to do? Okay, everything is perfectly fine. What you want to do finally? Finally, I like to now do with this. Right? Finally, what you like to do? Either you can just leave it as it is also, or I want to close the file. Right? Once everything is over, I like to close the file. So how do you close the file? Very simple. Disk.close. You have a close command for this. I can close it. Now you can see when I use the disk class close, you can see here unhandled exception type. Because this disk.close expected to generate an exception. And you are now come out of this type. So that is why this disk you don't have a problem. Whereas this disk you have an issue. Right? This is actually the file is inside this disk. So this can generate an exception. So wherever it is possible to generate an exception, you need to put a try. So try curly braces, copy this disk inside this. Whenever you put a try, you make sure that you have a catch cover. So catch, right? I say catch means what is the exception you are expecting? IO exception. Alt control space to get this. I say IOE exception because I cannot give the same name. E is already used, so I am using a different name. Again, I need to use curly braces, starting and ending it. So leave it as it is. So this finally you need to have put this try catch because this is not going to generate a exception because it is already covered over here. So I don't want to put anything over here. E.get message is not required. If you want to put, you can put it. So this is another problem developer generally does when they do a coding. Since I am not returning anywhere here, neither it will log nor it will put it in the screen. It will go as a empty. So there won't be any activity. Click on a button, no activity. No log generated, nothing seen. So this is the common problem developers will do. So now we finish the file streaming operation. So now we run it, execute it,